Welcome. Today we journey not across landscapes but through the darkest chapters of human history. We'll confront 5 infamous men whose actions reshaped the world through conflict, suffering, and monumental change. Their legacies are warnings, testaments to the extremes of ambition, ideology, and cruelty. This is not glorification, but remembrance and understanding. By studying these figures, we seek to learn the vital lessons history offers. Let us begin. Our journey starts in 20th century Europe, where Adolf Hitler rose from obscurity to orchestrate a global catastrophe. Hitler was a master manipulator, exploiting Germany's despair after World War I. He promised national revival, but built his vision on hatred and racial supremacy. Nazism poisoned society, turning neighbors into enemies and fueling a campaign of dehumanization. Hitler's ambitions ignited World War II, unleashing blitzkrieg warfare and plunging Europe into chaos. The conflict consumed millions of lives, but the darkest horror was the Holocaust. In death camps like Auschwitz and Treblinka, millions, Jews, Romani, dissidents, and others, were systematically murdered. The bureaucracy of genocide revealed how ordinary people can become complicit in extraordinary evil. When the war ended, the world was left scarred and broken, forced to confront the depths of human cruelty. The Nuremberg trials established new standards for justice, but could not undo the devastation. Hitler's legacy is a stark warning. Unchecked nationalism and hateful rhetoric can destroy civilizations. Economic hardship and instability can breed extremism. Vigilance is essential. We study this era not to dwell in horror, but to remember the victims and understand the mechanisms of such evil. The post-war world was fundamentally changed. New alliances, the United Nations, and the shadow of nuclear weapons all emerged from this crucible. Hitler's actions inadvertently shaped the modern world, but at an unimaginable cost. Remembering the Holocaust and World War II is our defense against repetition. These lessons are written in blood and tears, demanding that we never forget. The ghosts of the past teach us, if we are willing to listen. We must look into this abyss, however uncomfortable. Only by facing these truths can we hope to prevent history's darkest chapters from returning. The silence of the past demands our vigilance. Let us remember and resolve, never again. The world must not forget. From Hitler's ruins we move east to the Soviet Union, where Joseph Stalin forged an empire of fear and absolute power. After Lenin's death, Stalin outmaneuvered rivals and seized control, envisioning a communist superpower. His 5-year plans forced rapid industrialization, but at a catastrophic human cost. Collectivization drove millions off their land, triggering famines like the Holodomor, where millions starved. Stalin's paranoia led to the Great Purge. Show trials, executions, and the terror of the NKVD. Millions were sent to the Gulag, a vast network of labor camps where survival was rare. The Gulag system crushed the human spirit, fueling Stalin's industrial ambitions with forced labor. After World War II, Stalin imposed communist regimes across Eastern Europe, dividing the continent and igniting the Cold War. He transformed the USSR into a superpower, but at the cost of tens of millions of lives. Stalin's cult of personality and unchecked power show how ideology and fear can devastate a nation. The state became everything, the individual, nothing. Even today, Russia grapples with his legacy. Some see strength, others see tragedy. The memory of the Gulag and the Purges warns us against the dangers of absolute power and the suppression of truth. Stalin's reign is a chilling lesson in how a single leader's paranoia can shape and scar a nation. The cost of his vision was almost beyond comprehension. His shadow still looms over history. We must remember the victims and the dangers of unchecked authority. The lessons of Stalin's rule remain urgent and relevant. History demands we do not forget. Now we travel back to the 12th century Mongolian steppes, where Temujin became Genghis Khan, the world's most formidable conqueror. Genghis Khan united warring tribes through strategy, charisma, and ruthless brutality. The Mongol army, masters of cavalry and psychological warfare, swept across Asia and Europe with unprecedented speed. Cities that resisted were annihilated, those who surrendered were spared. The scale of destruction was staggering, tens of millions perished, and entire civilizations were erased. Yet Genghis Khan was also a visionary leader and administrator. He established a code of law, promoted religious tolerance, and created a written language for his people. After his death, the Mongol Empire became the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific to Europe. The Pax Mongolica brought a period of stability, revitalizing the Silk Road and enabling trade and cultural exchange between East and West. Technologies and ideas flowed across continents, connecting the world as never before. But this connection also spread the Black Death, devastating populations from Asia to Europe. Genghis Khan's legacy is deeply ambiguous. He was both destroyer and nation-builder. In Mongolia, he is revered as a founding father. Elsewhere, his name evokes terror. His conquests reshaped the world, for better and for worse. The Mongol Empire's impact is still felt today, in borders, cultures, and the movement of peoples. Genghis Khan remains a symbol of both awe and horror. His story is a reminder of the duality of power. It can unite and destroy. The lessons of his reign echo through history. We must remember both the devastation and the connections he forged. History is shaped by such titans, and by those who survived them. The world he changed is the world we inherit. Let us not forget the cost. We return to the 20th century to Cambodia, where Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge unleashed one of history's most brutal genocides. Pol Pot sought to erase society and start anew at year zero, inspired by a radical vision of agrarian communism. When the Khmer Rouge seized power in 1975, they emptied cities, forcing millions into the countryside as slave laborers. Money, religion, and family ties were abolished. The state, Angkar, ruled with absolute terror. Anyone deemed an intellectual or a threat, doctors, teachers, even those wearing glasses, was executed. Torture centers like Tuol Sleng became factories of death, and the killing fields filled with mass graves. Starvation, disease, and overwork claimed hundreds of thousands more. In less than 4 years, up to 2 million Cambodians, nearly a quarter of the population, were killed. The regime's paranoia turned inward, purging even its own loyalists. Vietnam's invasion in 1979 ended the nightmare, but Pol Pot never faced true justice. Cambodia remains haunted by this legacy. The killing fields in Tuol Sleng stand as grim reminders. Pol Pot's utopian fanaticism led to a living hell, a warning of how ideology can destroy a nation. The road to utopia paved with bones is a lesson we must never ignore. The world must remain vigilant against those who promise purity through destruction. The scars of Cambodia's genocide endure. We must remember to prevent such horrors from returning. The cost of fanaticism is written in the lives lost. Let us honor their memory by learning from this tragedy. Never again. Our final subject is Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of all the Russias. Orphaned young and raised amid violence, Ivan's early trauma shaped a ruler both brilliant and dangerously unstable. His reign began with reform, modernizing the army, expanding territory, and introducing new laws, but tragedy and paranoia transformed him into a tyrant. The death of his beloved wife fueled suspicion and rage, leading to the creation of the Oprichnina, his personal domain, enforced by a private army. The Oprichniki unleashed terror-land confiscations, mass executions, and torture. The sack of Novgorod stands as a symbol of his brutality, tens of thousands killed in a frenzy of violence. Ivan's cruelty was both political and personal. In a fit of rage, he killed his own son and heir. This act doomed his dynasty, plunging Russia into chaos after his death. Ivan centralized power, crushed the nobility, and expanded Russia's borders, laying the groundwork for future autocrats. Yet his reign left Russia weakened and traumatized, setting the stage for the time of troubles. Ivan's legacy is complex, a nation builder and a tyrant revered and feared. He created the model of the absolute czar, echoed by later rulers. His story is a warning of how personal trauma and unchecked paranoia can shape a nation's destiny. The echoes of his rule persist in Russian history and politics. Ivan the Terrible remains a figure of both horror and dark respect. His reign shows the dangers of absolute power in the hands of the unstable. We must remember the lessons of his rule. History's warnings are written in blood. Let us heed them. Our journey through history's darkest corridors ends here. We've witnessed the consequences of unchecked ambition and ideology. These stories are not just the past, they are warnings for our future. By understanding how these men rose and the devastation they wrought, we gain the wisdom to recognize danger. Let us be the generation that remembers and learns. The lessons paid for in suffering must never be forgotten. Thank you for joining us on this solemn journey. May we cherish the light having faced the darkness.